So now, Julia, you have the honor to do the last talk. As the first and the last talk are always ones that are most remembered from conferences. So yeah, thanks for waiting so long. We are a little bit behind time, but still good. Yeah, Julia, you are, of course, one of my most beloved colleagues at I². You have been with I² many years ago. Then you moved to eBay and to Kleinanzeigen, and you were responsible for the product management there. And then you rejoined I² in 2017, and now you're working as a VP Digital and Consulting. And today, yeah, you are not only VP Digital Consulting, you are also leading a part of our innovation, leading the tribes, and yeah, pushing innovation at I². So that's why today you will talk about the I² AI Experience Lab, which is one of our tribes, and how humans experience the interaction with AI. So the stage is yours.
Thank you. Yeah. We swapped the order just now because we realized Nuria's talk fitted much right after the one before. The invitation to attention might be rather loose, but meaningful, I hope it will be. Yeah, but anyway, even though if it's not focusing on attention, we thought we cannot end this Memex Day without news from our AIX Lab. And I will try to keep it short to not keep you away from the food trucks. Of course, in our Experience Lab, currently we deal a lot with the new tools that are available now, most of them ChatGPT based, but not all. So of course, we explore how we can make use of them along our study paths, right? From creating a survey or a guideline on about handling data, getting transcription of videos, data evaluation, categorization, all that kind of stuff. But that's not what I'm going to talk about now. Instead, because we are I², of course, we also wanted to find out how do humans experience the interaction with AI. And this is what I want to tell you a little about. We developed a model that I will briefly introduce to you. And as Nuria, I have, like a little sneak preview, some very, very fresh study results on ChatGPT for you. And I tried to do it all in maybe 12, 13 minutes. To develop our AI experience model as a kind of groundwork and framework, we started off with actually doing in-depth interviews. And as we heard before in the talk, these were really in-depth interviews. So they worked with free associations and interpreting the interview dynamics, almost psychoanalytic, I must say. And these insights were kind of the foundation for the AI experience model. Before I come to the model, let me describe some of the phenomena we saw really in every single interview. And almost all started with the people asking themselves what exactly AI is, how they would define it. And then they started thinking about what interactions they had and if they maybe had a lot of interaction without even noticing. So there's a lot of diffusion, a little, insecurity, and it's not easy, it's not really tangible, you could say. And at the same time, everybody has the assumption AI has a huge potential to change all our lives and society. And this both together, of course, comes along with a lot of emotion. And on the one hand, there's fears and concerns, right, of being manipulated or not being able to deal with the topics change in the next time. And on the other hand, also hopes and curiosity, partly even enthusiasm, right? What you will all be able to do with AI, and maybe AI will help you to get rid of stupid, repetitive tasks you still have to do yourself now, but maybe not in the future anymore. So this is kind of the phenomena we saw in all the interviews. And of course, these emotions, all people have them at the same time. You might see that yourself in introspection, that it's all there at the same time. So there's quite a few conflicts being mobilized, and one has to do with control, and the other also very important, and both kind of go together with identity, your own identity. So you have this conflict between submission and autarky, and on the other hand, fusion versus separation. So that's really kind of for personality, the very, very basic things. Let's come to the model now. Actually, I think this slide you see for the third or fourth time now today, which is great because it's kind of our I-square neurosymbiotic model, and you can see that it has an influence on all our work. Here it's the same, right? I show you the AIX model in a minute, but the system 0, the perception, system 1, the more implicit intuitive, and system 2, the more cognitive explicit level, of course, show up there also. Here it is. I'm pretty sure from the back there you will not be able to read much, but I will walk you through it anyway. We found 4 different modes that people are in when it comes to interacting with AI, and that's turmoil, paralyze, hyper-strength, and integration. I will introduce each one by one to you in a minute. But in general, they differ basically on 2 dimensions. And one dimension is stimulation, arousal, that can be high or low. And the other dimension is the structural level. You can either have a very structured experience or a rather chaotic one. And these dimensions kind of are really different between these modes. And depending on where on the dimensions you are, also then a different system is more active, right? In a very structured experience, system 0 is stronger. In a chaotic one, it's rather system 0 and system 1. But let me quickly walk you through the 4 different modes, because after that I want to show you the new ChatGPT results as well. First one is turmoil. Turmoil left in our diagram. Turmoil is really not a pleasant state to be in because you have a high arousal, so there's a high tension, high activity, like stress, you could say, and at the same time a chaotic experience. So you don't feel or see any clarity, right? So, and the mix of both of that, it's not easy to bear. So I think none of us would like to be in turmoil for a long time. Actually, we found something very similar when we examined how humans experience the corona crisis. So turmoil seems to be a typical reaction to overwhelming new situations. It was very similar, actually. So a chaotic, confusing experience with a high tension at the same time. So yeah, not a nice thing. Paralyze, it's also on the left side, so it's still a diffuse, chaotic experience, but arousal is lower, so you're not so stimulated anymore. You're a bit more relaxed, so to say. So you still think this is all weird and you don't really know how to deal with it, but it's a bit more passive, so you have found a bit more peace, you could say. To me, in German, this is the Vogelstrauß, right? Who puts the head into the sand. So you decide to more or less ignore the topic as good as you can. So that's easier to be in this state, but of course it's not easy to keep it up because you keep getting confronted with news and people talking about it, right? So probably you won't keep it up for a long time. Then hyperstrength, that's on the upper right. What you see there is that you kind of decided to be either totally pro or totally con. So you have a high arousal, you are very kind of active, and either you say, oh, AI is great, and with AI I can do everything. I'm exaggerating a bit, but or on the other hand, right, this is not really AI, right? These are the two. It can be very positive or very negative, but you do have a very clear standpoint. This is what characterizes hyperstrength. And the last one, integration, at the bottom right, that's probably the best modus to be in, because here you don't have this high activation, so you don't have this high stress level, you're relaxed, and you have a structured subjective experience. So that's why it's called integration. You are able to integrate positive and negative aspects. You might be more a believer, but you say, I still see those downsides, right? So it's a very reasonable state, I would say. And by the way, this was really important to my colleague Tillmann, who did most of the work here. It's not a part. Once you are in integration does not mean that you cannot be thrown back to turmoil from 1 minute to the other, right? So you can switch. That's why we decided to call it modes and not status. Okay, but as promised, I hope at least you have a rough idea on how far these modes differ, because once we had this model and we also had the chance to present it at the BVM regional evening, of course now the question was, okay, this is our groundwork, what do we do with it now? And then ChatGPT came, right? So it was clear, okay, this should be our first use case to examine how do people interaction with ChatGPT. So we worked on an online survey and tried to operationalize those modes and develop a whole battery of items. As you see here, it's still work in progress, but I brought some first results at least. First of all, we had 400 participants. Oh, by the way, is my colleague Ariane still here? Ah, there she is. Thanks a lot. Ariane actually programmed the survey and did most of the evaluation so far. Yeah, so out of the 400 participants, in our case, more than half have not used ChatGPT yet. So we actually had to cut it because we wanted to have a 50-50 sample. I read in other articles that more than half of the Germans have already tried out. In our case, it would have been less than half if we hadn't cut it. And of the ones who tried it out, you see the longest bar, that's the ones who only tried it a few times. So the ones who deal with it daily or a few times a week, that's still the minority here. Maybe, I think it was 20% both together. And then, apart from the MODI and the model, we also in general wanted to ask people how they experienced the interaction with ChatGPT. So this was only for the ones who have had experiences. And we used a semantic differential with scales like from difficult to easy or from strange to normal. And you see it's all a bit more on the positive side, but not very much. Apart from easiness, and that makes sense, right? Because you have this chat format that is, of course, easy to use because it's so similar to human communication. And then this was for us, of course, the most exciting question. So what mode are people in now? And you don't see it on the slide, but I tell you anyways. Overall, of all participants, about half of them are in integration mode. So that was a bit surprising to me, and then followed by turmoil. But what I brought you here as a diagram is a very, I think, interesting difference between users and non-users, and it kind of makes a lot of sense. A much bigger proportion of the non-users are in the paralyzed state as we defined it. So that kind of makes sense, right? It fits to the I don't want to deal with it. They actually don't use it. And then this is too complex for the short time, but of course, we tried to find items operationalizing the different modes, and then we split the sample. And here, for example, for paralyze, we would have hoped always that the gray is paralyze, rate those items highest. And it's not by accident that I chose this slide first, because in this case, it really worked out. In the others, it's a rather mixed picture. So this is here turmoil. We would have hoped that the red bars is always the longest, but it's not. So this is work we still need to do, right? So we have to do a proper item analysis now and identify the items that really work well and throw out the others. That's why I meant it's work in progress. And I'm sure you are not able to really detect anything if you sit in the back, but we would not be I-square if we wouldn't have also done an implicit measure. So we also used our product React, where we take reaction time into account when evaluating the data. And even if you can't see it, be assured it's also a very mixed picture. So the only thing that really seems to be valid and clear is that the paralyzed, this very passive, I don't want to deal with it, that I think we've hit very well, but the rest not really. And most complicated actually is finding good items for integration, because integration is such a reasonable thing, right? So everybody would agree to, I see pros and cons. Yes, everybody does, right? So it will be really hard to find good items there without having social desirability kicking in, which obviously was the case in our survey. Yeah. So as I said, it's work in progress. Next steps for us are, first of all, a proper item analysis, then optimizing the survey accordingly. But our aim is really to soon have a nice instrument ready to examine all different kinds of interactions with AI, so that we are prepared once clients come and want to test and get results for AI appliances. So far, I didn't really, it was more 15 minutes, but
Thank you, Julia. Are there any questions? Front row.
Steffen.
Test. Thank you very much for the nice presentation. I have two questions. First question is, can I join your AIX tribe?
Oh, so welcome. You could do the item analysis for us, Steffen.
Yeah, and, because I have a user acceptance model for innovation products, like we tested it out for autonomous vehicle driving, and it could fit perfectly to this question and to your survey. And the second question, the real question is, the focus was now on ChatGPT or AI in general, because, I mean, as I experienced, depending on the development and the productivity, there's a huge difference in terms of.
So the model and the in-depth interviews, that was on AI in general. Actually, we started when ChatGPT had not even been launched. But the online survey now focused on ChatGPT concretely. So I'll ping you tomorrow.
Thanks.
One other question there. Can you?
Sorry if I missed it, but how did you allocate the respondents into the 4 modes. So was that self-assessment?
Yes. And I'm not sure if we will stick to that, but that was our first approach. We had one single statement that was totally typical for one of the modes. And there we had a forced choice, so they had to decide which group. And this is what we used for the split. It might happen after a real item analysis that we realized those items were not the best, but for now we started with it.
Yeah, that might cause the 50% in the what did you mean? What was that called? In the integration mode, right?
Exactly.
So it's probably
exactly.
social
Because
desirability in it.
Yeah, that's what I said. Yeah, exactly. But it might also be true because you could see that the ones who used it more of them actually were in integration. So there could be something about it, but yeah, it's all, I would be careful for now.
Any more questions?
Everybody wants to go to the food truck.
Thank you, Julia, for this interesting insights into the survey. And I'm also excited to see how it moves on with the AIX Lab. Thank you.
And then
Okay, so now just in time, closing the conference. So I'd like to thank all the inspiring speakers who have been here today. It has been very interesting. It has been such a big variety of presentations, of talking about meaningful attention, about brands, products. I think we've learned so much from different angles. And also thank you, all of you who have come here to visit us, to participate, to network, to also contribute with your attention the whole day. And thank you very much to the great system administration team and the marketing team who made this possible without you, and to everyone who helped to make this conference such a nice day. It's not over yet. Yeah, let's clap for you. Thank you. Thank you. It has been a pleasure. So now we have, as promised, we have a food truck downstairs in the yard. We have a boat at the river, which is ready to take you on a tour. So you have to go to this direction, to the Spree. There are drinks, there's food, and at 7 p.m. the Berlin Pitch Night, Human Experience Family Pitch Night, starts here. So everyone is invited, of course. But let's all move just downstairs to the reception where you entered the conference, and you will be picked up. And then, let's have a nice evening together. Thanks all.